My Hero Academia, Chapter 220, titled My Villain Academia. Full on starts with a, well, I guess you're wondering how I got here situation, as narrated by Spinner. So we full on need him to look at the camera at some point and say, and just like it's The Office, just look at the camera when Tomura does something absolutely batshit stupid. Because he narrates throughout this entire chapter about just how disillusioned he's become with the League of Villains, and he almost sounds like a proxy for the audience itself, as the League of Villains have, come to this cult, and it's been addressed here and there in certain places, especially with the whole Deku is racist movement, and if you know nothing about that, be glad. But let's just say he said some kind of unscrupulous things in, Jump, the newest Jump game, where he meets up with Piccolo, and it's just like, ooh, Deku, why you so racist? But they're meeting up with this group of people who are essentially the KKK to a certain degree, because they're against those who do not look humanoid. Anyone who looks deformed or has, basically has a quirk that mutates their body into a non-human appearance, and they're just completely against that. They see Spinner and they're just like, oh, they have a lizard with them, how repulsive. And Spinner's just like, well, first of all, rude. And basically they've come here to rob them. More or less it's, kind of given that these are the wealthy elite, which feels like a very topical situation for the most part. But, they basically start robbing these guys, and when the guys start to fight back, they start basically murdering these guys. Like, there's no punches pulled or anything like that. They're dismembering, destroying, killing, decapitating. Like, it's straight up getting violent here. But Spinner is just like, well, I'm accomplice to another crime, basically. So Spinner is just really getting pretty pissy about this. And for the most part, the entirety of the League of Villains are starting to get a little bit pissy. Their equipment is basically starting to break down. With, Toga's, needles breaking off, and Mr. Compress, his, robotic arm is even starting to kind of, well, it basically needs some maintenance, more or less. Ooh, I'm sleepy boy. But Spinner's just like, man, once they get back to their hideout, which is just some random broken down kind of site, in some kind of quarry for the most part. It's just like, how long are we gonna keep living like this? But, Shigaraki and Mr. Compress kind of, banter back and forth to the certain degree. But, Compress jokes about the fact that they're basically living in squalor. It was like, what would the rest of the nation think if they were to see the illustrious League of Villains living in a dilapidated old building? What would our adoring fans think? And even Dobby comes in from one of his missions, quote unquote, but even twice kind of calls him out on the fact that he basically just goes around burning fuckers. But ultimately he's just like, they were nothing. They didn't have any ambition. They didn't have any drive, motivation. And, it's just like, it's just this kind of needless bickering between them because of their current situation. And even Tomura Shigaraki thinks back to when Kurogiri left. It is made known that Kurogiri had gone to, retrieve a great power for them for the most part. Someone who would be able to turn the tide of things in their favor. But, he never came back. So it's just like, there's no clue as to where they should go from here on out. They just know that, Tomura Shigaraki mentions that he wishes that the All for One's physician was here, and the theory on that still goes that that's the same doctor who told Deku he would never, gain any kind of quirk power or anything like that. That running theory that that doctor led to Deku not gaining his quirk, and in fact Deku's quirk was stolen. But, he's just like, that was the doctor who oversaw the Nomu project and all that. There's this fact that they don't have the kind of resources, clout, influence that All for One, brought for them, and really they benefited from in the first place. So they're just kind of lost, aimless to a certain degree. And then Spinner has basically had enough, and thank God for Spinner, because he is the voice of true reason here. Because he talks about his backstory for the most part. That the fact that he grew up out in the sticks, he was always kind of, treated as less than human, a dumb lizard guy, because people out in the boonies are all set in their ways and all that good stuff. But, he had nothing going for him for the most part. He just existed. And then he saw Stain. Stain's final moments, and everything changed for him. He started to realize just how unfair and bigoted and unrighteous the world truly was, where people could just demean him just for existing. Again, very topical for the most part. So he decided to try to rise up, and even Dabi tries to call him out on the fact that it's just like, you're just a Stain cosplayer and a cheap imitation. But, Spinner's just like, yeah, you're fucking right, I am. That's exactly what I am. I understand exactly that that's all I originally was, but I came to this group in order to push forward the attitude of changing society, influencing society, doing things bigger, better, altering the course of where our country, our world as a whole was headed. But now, nothing. You're just sitting on our asses doing petty, menial tasks, just waiting for something to happen. We're not doing anything. That fire that was lit under our asses so long ago just seems to have been completely snuffed out. We're not doing anything meaningful, relevant, anything that truly matters. We need to go out there and do something. We need to have a course, a plan, something. Tell me what our plan is. And if you're noticing I'm getting kind of passionate about this, he's right. He's goddamn right. All this time and nothing from Tomura after all this, after that whole situation where they blackmailed the UA, made them look like trash and garbage and nothing in the face of the community at large, and we have nothing that helped develop that. We've gone nowhere with that ever since. And, it's been gnawing at people. I know it has, because people have been calling the series out on that. Don't get me wrong, the past few story arcs were pretty fun, but, the situation with, what was his name again? Gentle? That dude, the one dude when La Brava, or Love Lover, or whatever, and then the whole situation with Class 1A versus Class 1B, that was fun and all, but my god, there's no true substance to it. We're not proceeding along the original course that we had originally set forth, especially after the way the whole situation with Overhaul ended. It seems like the League of Villains were ready to strike out and truly show the world what they could bring, but then we had nothing for chapters on end. And it's just like, where was that passion, guys? You were doing so well, you were going so far, and, nothing has come of it. Oof, okay, I'm done. Yeah, there we go. And so, as almost like divine intervention, or as almost on cue, we have the arrival of Gigant Dude, whatever his name is, who just arrives on the scene, and he's this passionate follower of All For One, a true believer for the most part, someone from the old days of All For One, back when he had an entire true league of villains, before they were all downed and fell and locked away by All Might. And so he comes onto the scene to basically test the successor of All For One, to see if he's truly someone worth devoting the same amount of time and effort he did to All For One. And we pick up where we left off from the previous end, the end of the previous chapter, where he beats them all to hell. And it's just like, and he just starts crying, because it's just like, my God, they're weak. They are so weak. It's actually pitiful. It's just like, how are they so irrelevant? He's just at a loss, because it's like, if this is a successor, then all is lost. There wasn't even any point. But, as everyone's just kind of stunned and in disbelief, and even Spinner's just like, what the hell is happening right now? The radio that was around the dude's neck falls off, and you hear the voice of the doctor calling out to Tomura Shigaraki that it looks like you could use some help. And so, Spinner announces that the story of our villains that has been at a basic standstill till now is finally ready to take off. And all I can say at this point is, Horikoshi, you need to deliver, man. Because, Tomura Shigaraki, despite the fact that he is supposed to be Deku's villainous counterpart, the antithesis to Deku's existence, whereas All Might had his arch rival All For One, Tomura Shigaraki is supposed to be Deku's true villainous arch rival, and that basically slipped my mind for a while. Like, ever since the events with Overhaul, Tomura Shigaraki has just been, and his League of Villains have been, the furthest thing from my mind to a certain degree, because they've had no influence, no impact ever since then. They haven't been in the news, they haven't been, talked about in hushed whispers and alley corners. When they first took off, yeah, they were the shit, they were the tits, man, but now it's just kind of like, yeah, whatever happened to those League of Villains guys, and, the world kind of plays into that to a certain degree. All For One is just seen like this grand mastermind, and Stain was this great revolutionary for change, and even Overhaul's reach just has these long impacts the more we start to develop into the rehabilitation of Erie as a whole. But Shigaraki, it's been nothing really. Ever since, it's just been like, yeah, he's out there, but what is he really doing nowadays? Like, he almost feels like a forgotten side character, and, we need this. We need that shot in the arm to really show where Shigaraki can go from here. How he can develop, how he can, push forward, if we're on the side of Deku, who is a rising hero, we need to see Tomura Shigaraki rise up and become the truly devastating villain All For One is trying to make him out to be. Only then will All For One's grand master plan to just completely destroy the emotional state of All Might truly come to fruition. Because right now, Tomura Shigaraki is not the greatest villain out there. He has small glimpses of true, dastardly, menacing villainy, but It's just been on the way now, and we need to show the people out there why the League of Villains is a force to be reckoned with, why they were able to spark the embers of revolution and the next rise of the wave of villainy. You know, do something, show me what you got, show me your moves. You know, Tomura Shigaraki, this is your villain academia. This is your chance to show the world the menace, the terror that you can become. Make it a good one. Now, I'm done. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. You know, how do you think Tomura Shigaraki will develop? Where he needs to improve? What he needs to do to really start to grow into that role of the ultimate villain? And how do you think he'll do it? Because me, you know, I have some ideas, but it's just, I don't see him implementing them right now. Need to see something that really just inspires me in terms of his character. And I kind of need it. I need it. If this is an arc dedicated to just showing how far the villains can come, then do it, man. Make me love Shigaraki as a villain. That's your challenge, Horikoshi. Make it a good one. But if you like this video, feel free to leave me a like. And, you know, if you didn't, if you hated my rambling, feel free to leave me a dislike and tell me what I did wrong in the comment section below, so I might better myself for future videos. But hey, until then, how about subscribing? Because, friends, this is the beginning of your Villain Academia. Make sure it's a nasty one. And until then, I will see all you failures in the next video. Bye-bye.